TopMedTalk.
Well, hello and welcome to TopMedTalk. I'm Desiree Chappell, your host, and we're coming to you from EBPOM live from London, our virtual event. It's been a great conference so far. We're on day 2 with amazing pre-recorded lectures from world authorities and in perioperative medicine, and we have had live panel chats with all of them as well. It has been 24/7 connection for the EBPOM world. Now, stay tuned for some amazing entertainment coming up and the first ever Pockapalooza. What is Pockapalooza, you may be asking yourself? Well, here to tell us more and staying true to the virtual nature of our event is our editor-in-chief of TopMedTalk in London, England. Just got home from day 2, Monty Mythen. Hello, Monty.
It's really great to see you. How did you manage to slip this one in? I thought we were supposed to have a rest at the end of the day.
It's been a little crazy, but you know me and TopMedTalk at these events. We just got to pack it all in. So I was excited when we had a chance to catch up with some friends to talk about a very important initiative. So I thought I'd just squeeze it in on you. Sorry.
Well, thanks for that. Everyone at home is very, very grateful. But it's good to be. I just have to say how well the whole thing is going. So thank you to everybody. Thank you to the thousands of people who are joining in.
Yeah.
What an amazing event.
It is. Well, Monty, I mentioned Pockapalooza. Please tell our listeners what we mean. What is it?
I think, I don't know where it came out of. I think we were sort of sitting around somewhere a few years ago, and we were reflecting on the Lollapalooza, which many people in Europe haven't heard of, but is very famous, I think, in America, and in a niche audience around the world. And then a few years ago, I went to the Datapalooza, which is the data palooza.
I'll say the data. Can you translate that, please?
Data or data, numbers, etc., which is a really cool event in Washington, D.C., which is all about the people on the cutting edge of app development and AI in medicine. And we're thinking there, well, what can we do from doing it? Well, what about a POM-a-palooza? What about a POC-a-palooza? Which is, a perioperative care palooza. It's a bit tortured, but it seems to be going down well so far.
We had fun with the names.
And as part of that, we got a T-shirt now, so it must be real. We've got a hashtag, so it must be real. And we're going around the world with it. So we're doing 24/7. Let's connect with people in perioperative care around the world. And while we're at it, let's raise some money for our friends and colleagues in Africa. We think it's hard dealing with COVID-19 in our very well-resourced world. Yeah. But listen to those stories from Bruce Bickard and his colleagues in Africa. The African Perioperative Research Group endeavours are quite extraordinary, and a little goes a long way. So we're raising money for them.
We are. There'll be more details to follow. I'll kind of, when we wrap up, I'll signpost you guys of where you can go to contribute to that. So very, very worthy cause. We're so excited to be doing the first ever Pockapalooza, our first ever fundraising that we've been doing it's the African Perioperative Research Group. So please stay tuned for all of that. So very, very exciting. Monty? Are you happy? Everything's going well so far. So we're.
I think happiness. I think it's. It feels a bit like being, dad at childbirth. I think it all seems to be going well so far. Yeah. We're excited, and we're looking forward to. A terrible thing to say. We're looking forward to it being over, but at the end of it, it's been. Everyone's worked so hard to pull it together. Everyone's been so generous. Yeah. I think it's going really, really well. Yeah. And I'm a bit, like all of us, a bit tired now, but also extremely excited. So we're looking forward to the whatever you do when the baby is finally born moment.
Well, we're definitely celebrating. And like Monty said, thank you to everybody that's contributed. Well, Monty, I wanted to take this opportunity and, like I said, squeeze this last little podcast in to catch up with some friends, leadership from Medtronic, to discuss some of the work that they did and have been doing and will continue to do during COVID. So joining us first is our friend Michelle Jones, who is the Senior Director for Global Marketing at Medtronic. Michelle, it is so wonderful to see you.
Thank you, Desiree. Monty, hello. It's such a pleasure to join you at EBPOM 2020 live from London. It's an exciting opportunity for all of us. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Well, unfortunately, it didn't happen in person. We didn't all make it to London this year to join the conference, but that's okay. There's plenty more to come. And thrilled to death we have this opportunity to do it virtually. And actually, the reach that we have around the world is absolutely fabulous. So I'm excited about that. And, thank you for joining us during the podcast today.
Absolutely, it's our pleasure. This opportunity came, and we're so excited to be able to share a little bit about what we've been doing. So since the outbreak of COVID-19, Medtronic's been communicating with a lot of clinicians as well as public health authorities to really better understand the emerging issues relevant to the care of these patients in this really rapid evolving time as we continue to learn and continue to adjust as we learn. And our priority as Medtronic will continue to be really looking at the safety and well-being of not only our employees, our clinicians, but then also the patients that our clinicians are serving and relying on our solutions that we offer. So I'm so excited today to introduce the team to talk a little bit more about this solution and this remotely deployable opportunity where we've really been able to scale an ability to care for these patients with the safety of our clinician in mind. And so what I'd like to do is introduce a few of my team members to come on and have a discussion about that. So first and foremost, I'd like to introduce our Vice President and General Manager of Patient Monitoring, and that is Frank Chan. And I'd also like to introduce our Vice President of Regulatory and Development, Jason Case.
All right, there we have everybody. Frank and Jason, thank you so much for joining us. This is a great pleasure to be able to have a chat with you guys virtually.
Thanks, Desiree. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting us. And Monty, nice to see you again.
Great to see you.
All right. And Michelle, I noticed you popped off. Thank you so much for Michelle for introducing. Maybe we can catch up with you at the end. Jason, thank you for joining us on our virtual podcast today. All right. So I wanted to first chat with Frank just a little bit. Frank, I know that a fun little fact about you that whenever we met you back in February, you're a mechanical engineer with graduate degrees in biomedical engineering. And one of the things that you told us whenever we first met is that you've worked on every joint in the body that can be touched. And I thought that was so interesting.
Right. That was a long time ago. You think of careers and lives and you think of the different phases. And, I sort of started off life in medical technology as an orthopedic bioengineer. That's where that story comes from, where, I've worked and I've designed every moving joint in the body with the exception of the TMJ, but as life has it, things change and jobs change and you take different directions. And so that was early on. I feel like I'm the master of none at this point.
Well, I don't believe that's true. Frank, one of the other things that whenever we first met that I found very interesting is that you're talking in your role about really helping move the needle in transformation of your organization there and how you've really worked to do that. Can you tell us just a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so maybe I'll start with just describing the corporation as a whole.
Yeah.
So Medtronic is a global technology company, and we're focused on technologies and solutions to address chronic conditions, acute patient condition management. And so we've got a mission that was developed about 60 years ago and is still in effect today, and essentially is to alleviate pain, restore health, and extend life. And it's an obligation that we have to our customers, both of you and others, your patients, and then the community. So I have the pleasure of leading Medtronic's business called Patient Monitoring, which really focuses on providing technologies that provide data, insights, early warning to help you as caregivers manage your patients better, to eventually reduce complications that are dangerous and costly and reduce overall costs for the healthcare system. So that's a little bit about what we do.
Great. Well, now, Frank, I'll come back to you here in just a moment. I wanted to chat with Jason very quickly just to get a little bit more about his background. Now, Jason, Tell us, first of all, your role there at, tell us again your role there at Medtronic.
Yeah, so I lead the research and development organization as a part of Frank's group. So focused on designing and developing the solutions we provide.
Okay. Well, fun fact about Jason is that, first of all, I heard that you're a movie star.
It depends on the measure of movie star. But yeah, maybe in my mind, a movie star, and maybe in others, not so much.
No, I'm just teasing. One of the things that I heard is that you hold 29 patents.
Oh,
that's a true statement.
Are those behind you, though?
29 is. Yeah, some of them are behind me. The patent wall, the wall of fame at home.
That's cool. So I believe that probably motivates you quite a bit in the role that you play in R&D there at Medtronic.
Yeah, without question. You know, I think when we think about our job and what we're trying to accomplish, you know, it's solving important clinical problems and applying engineering to do it. And so it's a really nice fit of, you know, having a really big impact, but also being able to be creative and innovative at the same time.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Well, I'd like to go back to Frank and just start this conversation by Frank tell us a little bit about the experience that Medtronic had in these initial phases of COVID when it was really starting to hit pretty hard and really in the epicenter here in the U.S. in New York. They created the Javits Center as a field hospital there, and because of some of the things and technology that you guys provide, you were pretty much involved in a lot of that. So can you tell us about that experience?
Yeah. I think it goes back to the fact that since the pandemic was declared, you know, we've stayed very close to our customers so that we could understand their needs, how they're helping their patients, and how we partner with clinical societies to support and help clinicians, you know, as they prepare to deal with COVID-19 patient management, you know, and we've learned a lot about ourselves. Like in any crisis, we learn a lot about ourselves personally and professionally. And I think in this case, it has been unprecedented from the kind of insights that we've gotten. So from the perspective of our business, patient monitoring, you know, we provide technologies that give you data insights, early warning. And so one key insight was that remote monitoring is a key enabler to getting the right information to the caregiver at the right time. And so particularly for COVID-19 patients who are at risk for respiratory deterioration, it could not be more critical, right? And so in providing timely alerts of respiratory decline, in reducing the number of times clinicians need to be at the bedside, and then allowing clinicians who unfortunately are managing larger and larger patient volumes to deliver the kind of care, the quality of care they want to deliver, but more effectively, because they have the ability to look across a wider volume of patients and ensure that patient status is monitored in real time. So that's what we learned. And so interestingly, there has been a big pull from our clinical partners, candidly, around the world, for these kinds of solutions. And the Javits Center was an opportunity for us to work closely with the New York State government to, in essence, create something from nothing. So it was a convention center that was bare, and then they created a field hospital with several thousand beds. You know, so that was an important experience for us and an important partnership for us as well.
Yeah, and Monty, go ahead.
I was going to say, Frank, it's been a very interesting few months because if I look back over my career over the decades, we were understandably very close to our industry partners in the early days of critical care. And then we entered these strange few years where we became suspicious of each other in some way, you know, perverse incentives and what was going on. But it's interesting, as soon as the balloon went up, as soon as it became really difficult to deliver critical care, we reached out to each other to say, you know, me to you, Frank, help. You to me, Monty, what help do you need? And it's been really, really exciting and positive. Has it felt like that for you as well?
It has, and I share some of that perspective because I've been in this industry now for over 20 years, and I think the relationships have ebbed and flowed. But I think here's how I'd summarize it. What I've learned is that a strong team with common goals can make a really big impact, and I think we have a common goal. And I
absolutely.
think our common goal is to improve patient outcomes. It's to reduce overall healthcare costs and to expand access to patients who don't have access to medical technology. I would be hard pressed to find somebody, clinician or somebody who is on the technology side, to say that wasn't what ultimately we want to accomplish, right? So between your role as a direct caregiver, and us as a technology provider, I know that we can make a bigger difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jason, I wanted to talk to you specifically about what the setup and implementation was like, because I can't imagine, trying to put something like this together in just such a quick, short amount of time. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so it started, I'll start from the beginning. The Javits Center was, it started as an overflow for just patient care in general, and then there was a move to convert it to a COVID-19 overflow center. And we got a call the week before Easter Sunday from Governor Cuomo's office and asking if we could play a role in this with our solutions. And what I'll say is, and by the way, the Javits Center, as we engaged it, it's just a big open room and happens to have a network. And so that's where you start from, right? And engaging in partnership, obviously the state had already been mobilized on creating the rooms and how they were going to intake patients. And our role was really just to deploy that critical respiratory monitoring. And then, as Frank mentioned, the remote side of it. And for us, the impact in our ability to say yes and pull it off was driven by some of the progress we've made. We've been thinking about lighter software-oriented solutions, and we had a solution that we could actually deliver remotely and install it on a local network, as opposed to having to bring in a lot of additional extra hardware. And so that was the approach we took. We were able to exercise some of those muscles. We deployed over Easter weekend, so 2 days, 400-bed remote respiratory monitoring solution at the Javits Center. In fact, by the first go live on Easter Sunday, we got a note right away of 6 patient saves. So it's really rewarding, not only the ability to serve that need quickly, but to already have feedback that it's making a difference. So it was a really powerful experience.
Jason, if I may, can I ask you about trust in that? So, and by trust, I mean, usually when we get into procurement cycles and purchasing and invoicing and checking, it feels like years can pass before a box gets delivered. It felt to me, we had a similar experience in London with our Nightingale hospitals. It felt as though we could ring up friends who would ring the CEO, the CMO, the CFO, whatever it is, and they said, "We got you. We'll load the trucks. We'll send them round, and we're in this together, and we trust you. It'll be fine." Yeah. Was it really like that? Was it really like a weekend and said, everyone stand down, just do the right thing?
Yeah. Well, I'd say it even started before that. You mentioned contracting. We went to work Monday after the phone call, nothing in place, just saying, we got a problem. Here's the situation. How are we going to figure it out together? And allowed us to prepare for that, not only prepare for that install, but we were already actively engaged with IT, already actively remotely surveilling the system, all without that contract in hand as an example. So very much like that, problem to solve, and we can do it together. And so it's a really neat experience.
That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sure. That's an amazing story. Well, Jason, for us as clinicians, can you break it down when you say like the remote, remote surveillance and things like that? Break it down. What does that actually mean for me if I'm in the Javits Center? How am I utilizing that support?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what we had did was in setting up the system, essentially we were creating pods of care that were up to 40 patients. So there'd be 40 beds. and we would have a central station that could surveil 40 beds at one time. And then we replicated that over and over. And then we also had all of those stations would aggregate into one command center where you could see all of the beds in one place. So you kind of had this hub and spoke model of surveillance. And the net sum of it was, I think it was 20 clinicians could monitor 400 patients, 20 to 40. So it's, a pretty neat thing.
Well, absolutely. I mean, when you're down on staff, I mean, it's would be critical to be able to do something like that. Monty, do you have a question? Or?
I was going to say, Jason, we all think, we hope that these sort of dramatic changes are going to stick. Maybe not completely, but at least in part. We're not going to go back to where we were from many different perspectives, from flying around the world, from physical conferencing, but, from accepting the fact that technology is there to help. Do you think it'll stick? That's a loaded question. You can only answer that one way, but you know what I mean. We've been there before, where it seems like a great idea for a weekend in COVID.
Yeah, and I was going to say too. I mean, how do you see this being implemented in a hospital per se versus this field area?
Rolled it out everywhere.
Yeah,
totally. Well, and we've had that experience to date. So I'll answer the first question. I'll say. I would find it, and of course I'm coming from a position of innovation, so you know my bias. Yeah, exactly. I would find it hard to believe that it wouldn't stick, right? And I think at the end of the day, you have a moment in time which radically changes perception. Yeah. And by creating this momentum, you don't have to convince people it's the right thing to do. Yeah. It's just obvious. And then once you have it, you realize, oh, it was the right thing to do. The convincing's gone. And I'll say that outside of the Javits even, we've done this 13 times, and largely they've been a host of expansions into lower acuity settings or conversions of the parts of the hospital into, remotely monitored, remote respiratory monitoring areas of care. And we just see it building. I think we've got 18 more in the works now. So it's just continuing to pick up as sort of the right thing to do.
Well, I wanted to bring Frank into the conversation again. Frank, can you tell me, what are the major learning points that you guys have taken away from your experience at Javits and since COVID it has been going on?
I think there's a couple of things, Desiree. Off the top of my head, I'd say we have learned that we could move very quickly. And we move quickly as a broad team, and I don't mean just us on the Medtronic side. I mean us with our customers, and it's played out both at the Javits Center as well as some of these hospital settings where we've helped hospitals kind of expand lower acuity units to slightly higher acuity respiratory monitoring units. That with a common cause that we're aligned to, with a sense of urgency that we're aligned to, and then the intent where we share the same purpose and the same goals, then we could move very quickly. And that, I think, that is probably one of the best byproducts of this horrible situation, is a learning from that perspective, And I think, Monty, when you asked Jason about remote monitoring, if it's here to stay, we've also learned that it's now a pull from everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's no longer a concept or like a feature that we're trying to express value for. And I believe that people naturally now are seeing that. And as we hope that the pandemic will wane and never come back, I think, though, that the recognition that there's value in how you can kind of expand reach as a clinician to more and more patients. And it starts with remotely monitoring, but then later, what if you get remotely control certain devices, right?
I think, Frank, if you look at the virtual free paper session here, the abstracts and the final presenters on the main stage, of which we had one earlier on today, another one tomorrow. The common theme from COVID-19 is the fact that people reached out for innovation, much of it digital, much of it app-based, much of it remote, And the conclusion from almost everyone is that we ain't going back. Why would we go back? We've accepted it in the rest of our life. Why would we go back in medicine?
Yeah, most definitely. And we see that in all facets, whether it's medical technology, monitoring technology, personal protective equipment. And it has been very encouraging to see all aspects of the world, health authorities who have kind of relaxed regulatory standards so that we can get medical technology, right?
Yeah, say to get approvals. I was director of research and development at my university and hospitals for about 6 years, and the big complaint was how slow we were to approve things. To approve trials and to approve evaluations and the paperwork. 24 to 48 hours now is a long time to get approval for an innovative idea. I hope that sticks too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. Do we hear angels singing? No. Well, Frank, in our last couple minutes here, I want to ask both you and Jason, but I'll start with you. Really, we've talked a little bit about what we think is the future, but really when you have to, put it into words and really where you see this going, in 2021, what do you think this is going to look like? Is this a project that you guys are taking on to really promote and move the needle on? And what are your thoughts on that?
When you refer to a project, you're talking about rapidly deployed respiratory care units. Is that? Yeah. I think that we're going to continue to serve patient needs where they occur as the pandemic ebbs and flows, for sure. No question about that. But I think what we're learning from this experience is there a way to serve the underserved? And we have a couple of tests, pilots that we have underway to perhaps set up some of these units in emerging markets where the infrastructure isn't actually all that mature. And if we could do that, then why wouldn't we do that on a normal basis? So I think this is, like Monty, you mentioned it a few seconds ago, this has spawned all sorts of innovative thinking. And I do think that that's sustainable. And hopefully it's not to serve the pandemic, but it's to serve general patient needs. And so I do think, as a positive byproduct of this whole thing, that I believe that's where we're heading.
Yeah, that's great. And Jason, from your R&D perspective, getting this developed and getting this in the hands of those that need it, talking about these emerging markets and things like that, where do you guys see how you're going to do that?
Yeah, two thoughts cross my mind, just to build on what Frank says. I think first and foremost, you have to have the right insight, right? The right vital, the right parameter, the right intelligence. But after that, what we're learning is, just like Frank said, the how you deliver it's really important. And over the weekend, we created a respiratory care unit in the Javits Center. So it starts to become believable you can do that in other places with less infrastructure. So that's on our mind. And then I would take it so far as to say, as you think about the world through I'll say, consumption of home movies, you can get Netflix anywhere. Doesn't matter where you're at. You pull it up on your iPhone, on your smart TV. And, I think that's our future for our vitals and our parameters.
Jason, I just want to point out, you can get TopMedTalk everywhere as well. So. And that's free.
That's hilarious. Well, Frank, join us again. Jason, we can't tell you how much we appreciate you guys coming on TopMedTalk and chatting with us about this very important initiative that, again, has been one of the silver linings that has come out of the COVID crisis. And so glad that you guys were there and able to respond. What you're doing for patient and clinician safety is just so very important. So thank you for that. We commend you for that.
Yeah. And can I add to that we, before all of this happened, but not long ago, we had a conversation about the fact that we thought the world would move into this place where we'd be doing global education in this way. And you supported us, through a grant. So thank you very much indeed. We didn't want it to happen this way, but I think it's good ultimately that it has happened. I think global education delivered to thousands of people in this way is a wonderful thing. So thank you.
Yeah, most definitely. And thank you for having us.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, likewise.
we really look forward to hearing from you guys. And, we'll check back later in the year, maybe early next year, to see how all this is going. And hopefully we haven't had to deploy it too many more times in any type of field hospital. But if we do, I sleep better knowing that you guys are there. So thank you. And thank you for joining Top Med Talk. We're here at EBPOM Live from London. Be sure to check out the Expo map at the conference to learn more about Medtronic. They have a booth there. We have our Top Med Talk booth and the Pockapalooza booth as well. So make sure you check those out. There's an area that you can donate to the African Perioperative Research Group. They have their own little tent, so super easy to find. So check that out. And you can find the link to all these things that we've been talking about today in our show notes and in the notes for the podcast. So appreciate you all so much for listening and joining us. Monty, we've made it through another day.
Absolutely. And don't forget to join our great entertainment program when it happens, because we all deserve a little bit of party.
We do a little party. But I will tell you, Monty, one of the things, what I've looked most forward to do.
I'm listening.
I know, and I haven't done it yet. Yoga. There are yoga breakouts.
Oh, okay,
you can check it out in the entertainment tent.
Good luck with that. I'm looking.
We're going to need some Zen.
I'm looking forward to the jazz.
Yeah, I know. Jeremy's great. Well, anyway, thanks for listening to Top Med Talk. Thanks to Frank and Jason and Michelle so much for joining us. Be sure to stay tuned for more amazing conversations. Thanks so much. Cheers.
See you tomorrow.
TopMedTalk.